Hi, this is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I want to show you this project right here featuring the Share a Milkshake bundle and some other pieces and parts that we're going to kind of talk about. But before we get started, I want to talk about looking at a card like this that can be very overwhelming to a beginner stamper. Looks like there's a lot of pieces and parts, and if you choose to make just one card, you might get a little overwhelmed with the project. But there's another way to approach it, and that's more something in the line that some of the more avid stampers do, and they've kind of learned to compartmentalize their makes. In other words, you sit down and you make a whole bunch of cardstock bases and then your layers. So you stamp, cut, and emboss everything in advance, and then you sit down and kind of gather all your component parts and build and create your final card. It's a lot of fun when you do it this way. It's a lot less stress when you do it this way, and I have found that it gives me the opportunity to do some production stamping, some production creating, because I always have an end user in mind for my cards, and that's primarily I donate all my makes to the UNM Children's Hospital here in Albuquerque for all the children in the pediatrics ward and the nurses and staff, something to brighten their day. That is how I give back as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. So we're going to begin with just kind of walking through all the pieces and parts. Think about compartmentalizing your work so that you can kind of enjoy the end of just assembling and putting together a bunch of projects that you can gift away. So this is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection, StampArtConnection.com, State of the End. Don't forget to like and share, and let's get started. So we're going to make this project using the Share a Milkshake bundle. I want to tell you straight away that all the information, the products, and the dimensions are going to be on my blog. So if I miss anything here, you can find it on my blog. I'm using some of the doilies and a 3D embossing folder that is in my stash. I've also pulled in some, these are scraps that came from the exploding box card that I will be posting here shortly. So you always want to keep those handy because they make really nice pieces. I'm using glimmer paper for my sundae, for the cherry, and for the ice cream. And these are from the specialty glimmer paper pack, and you can find that in the annual catalog. It's got a really gorgeous piece. This is Sweet Sorbet, and it's kind of an ombre color. So I use the cherry up at top. The cherry is the darker color at the top, and at the lower end I used for the hearts. I also had some other glimmer paper. I had kind of a white. I had like a mint macaron color, and then I had some of the red glimmer paper from Christmas. So here's my Sweet Sorbet base card. I have mint macaron as a layer, and then I have my top piece that we're going to emboss with basic white. And those are all your standard sizes for layering on your cards, and I'll have that on my blog. One of the tools you're going to need for this project is your Stamparatus, and you're going to align your two-step images one on top of the other on the corner of your plate. I'm cutting a piece 4 1/4 by 10. It's basically a sheet of cardstock. I'm using 2 different shades. These particular colors I'm not real happy with. I will tell you that you want to probably go with Flirty Flamingo and Petal Pink so that you have more contrast in your colors, and then just simply use your Stamparatus to step it down, flip your paper around, and then you can stamp again up on the top. And you can do this for both sheets because you take just a regular sheet of cardstock and you go ahead and and stamp both sides. Then take your other plate with your darker color, and it's going to fit perfectly over your image, and then you're just simply going to stamp over that. And we're going to just flip it around and then do our second step of our stamping, and it's going to align perfectly, and there we go. So you have, with just a matter of just a few stamps, you have what do we have? 6 images. To cut these images, we're going to pull in our different pieces of glimmer paper, and now we're going to pull in our dies. And what I'm going to do with my 6x6 sheets of glimmer paper is I'm just going to cut them into 3-inch widths, and I'm using my my ombre paper so that I just kind of have the dark on one side and the lighter color on the other side. I'm pulling in my different dies that I want to use, and I'm going to use all my dies, and I'm going to for each one of my colors except for my for the red for the cherry. But here I'm just kind of lining up and making sure that I can kind of use the best economy of space for this 3x6 piece of glimmer paper. Then I'm going to take a piece of press and seal, and I'm going to press that over my dies, and that's what's going to hold them in place. And then you want to make sure that you kind of trim those before you run them through your embossing folder. We're going to use the same technique here for our dies for both our kind of our little sundae cup and then our milkshake glass. Again, just lie the press and seal over it, lay it down, and then press it with your fingers. Now you want to ensure that you cut the excess press and seal that is around your dies before you die cut them. I made the mistake of running my dies through my my die cut machine, and you can see that excess press and seal just peeled off my my images, and I had to start over. So apply the press and seal and then trim around it so that you just have enough kind of poking out the along the edge so it does not ruin the rest of your cardstock. So here I'm showing you that I'm going to have to restamp, and I'm pulling back in my inks. I'm going to have to restamp my images because I basically lost an image with my press and seal. So there's my first step, and then I'm going to use my darker color, and that's going to be my second step. Again, I don't like the contrast with these two colors, and I have a better recommendation. So there I pulled it off, that other piece that I had die cut. I ran it through my embossing machine, and there you go. See, it just came off nicely. So you can just kind of put those aside, and you can very quickly die cut all those pieces. I'm going to do the same thing for all these other pieces that are part of the milkshake. That's the ice cream. I'm doing it in all the different colors, and we're just going to go ahead and watch. Okay, so now that we have cut all our pieces and parts, I'm just going to kind of stack them together off to the side, and we're going to look at our layers. So again, the measurements will be on my blog, but what I'm doing is I'm taking a piece of the Country Gingham 6x6 paper that came from the Country Lane Floral, and I'm kind of matching up some different I'm kind of picking some patterns here that I want to use, and what I want to do is I want to create a tablecloth, and you're going to want to measure about 1 3/4 on your piece of basic white, and I'm just going to kind of mark that, because what we're going to do is we're going to place that up to that mark in our embossing folder, which is going to create our background, and then you can see the bottom is where our tablecloth is going to go. So again, I'm just kind of marking it, and I'm just doing everything at once, just kind of rolling into it. Once you kind of get into a rhythm, it's not hard. There you go. I have all 3 of those pieces already cut out. Now I'm going to erase any pencil lines that I may have, and I'm kind of going to affix my tablecloths, and I'm just going to use my all-purpose glue, and of course using my stamp piercing mat and my silicone mat, and just go ahead and glue that right there. That's going to be our tablecloth, our table. I'm going to do it for all of my card fronts. And then after those have dried is when I'm going to just flip them around, and I'm going to use a either a mini cutter, or I can just use some shears, some cutting shears, and just kind of trim those. But you can see where that one piece kind of had a jagged bottom. Well, it doesn't matter, because I'm just going to go ahead, bring in my mini cutter, and I'm just going to go ahead and just trim off those excess pieces that are just kind of hanging over the edge of the front of our cardstock, and just do that for my other card fronts as well, and just makes it very easy. And there we go. Now I have I'm going to pull in and take my doilies. These are available in the annual catalog. I'm going to cut them in half, and I have another one that I've already cut, and I'm just going to kind of place that where the bottom of the doily is just going to come to the bottom of our tablecloth, because this is going to be kind of a doily that's going over our tablecloth before we're going to put our sundae on. And then I'm just using some fine tip glue, just some strategic places there, and I'm just going to place that over that cardstock. And again, just line up the bottom of the doily, and then trim off the top where it meets the cardstock and the embossed image on our front, and just put some fine tip glue and just adhere that nicely there. And it just kind of gives just another kind of neat pattern. I kind of like the wild pattern of that embossing folder. There's a lot of 3D embossing folders. I will have recommendations on my blog. I'm sure you have some ideas or some embossing folders in your your craft room that you can use as well. But that's just kind of where it becomes fun, where you can kind of like begin to combine some new products from the new mini catalog, as well as some of the things that you have from your other items in your craft room. Now I'm just going to start kind of matching up. I kind of want to go kind of alternating colors with my ice cream sundaes here, and then I'm going to use some of my my easy glue and just kind of begin to build my sundae. And there's a little slot that's there on the side, and I'll show it to you here in a minute, but you don't want to glue over that, because that's where your spoon is going to go in. But you just kind of glue it together, and if make any trimming. Here I just think I got my dies were just a little bit off. But usually when I do this, I'm either playing music, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm just kind of, it can be very relaxing, very to kind of get into the creative space like this and just begin to kind of put together your little ice cream sundaes. And I just kind of want to show you, just kind of put just a little bit and then add that on the top, and you can kind of see the little cut. It's like a half moon cut there on that bottom ice cream piece where the spoon's going to go. So that's another piece of cardstock you're going to need. It's going to be some gold metallic cardstock. I'm just adding the cherry now from my sweet sorbet glimmer paper that I cut, and just add that to the top. And if you use the colors, the ink colors, Flirty Flamingo and Petal Pink, you'll come up with a much better contrast for your two-step stamping on this particular project. There's the little spoon. I had to cut several out of gold, and it comes with a nice little die. I'm just kind of cutting those out of some gold metallic cardstock. There's the little cut piece, and I prefer the little spoon. I think it looks kind of nice to have kind of some gold bling. But there's also a stamp and a die that cuts out a straw, and the stamp gives you kind of that neat old kind of fountain type straw where it's kind of red and white. Okay, now we're going to cut or rather stamp our sentiments that we're going to cut out using one of the dies from one of my favorite pieces, and you will also be using this for when you look at the exploding box card project, which is why I'm kind of showing you how to put all these together, because for the exploding card or exploding box card project, you're going to have to kind of come up with all the pieces and parts so that you can assemble that project. So I've kind of built on these last couple of videos that I've produced. I've kind of built on how to do the hearts, the floral hearts, and then the these sundaes, because it's all along the Valentine's theme, and I just think it's really a cool project to put together. So we just begin building in our layers. That was the mint macaron. We're just going to go ahead and then I'm just going to go ahead and play some music so you can see how the rest of the card comes together. So there you go. Some beautiful cards. They look really complicated, but you just break down the steps and kind of enjoy the the make, putting all the pieces and parts together. And if you have extra pieces and parts, you can use them for other projects like the exploding box card that's going to be coming up soon. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and stampartconnection.com. Please like and share, leave a comment, and as always, happy stamping.